Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Len Barry, chair of the CMOS Ottawa Centre Executive. Welcome to this March seminar in our series. It will be given by Igor Shkvorets, as you can see on the screen. Before I pass the mic over to Frank Johnson to introduce Igor, I would just like to acknowledge two of our members, Bob Jones, for managing the communication and the website for these seminars, and Denis Bourque, who manages the Zoom session and the recording of it and the posting, as well as the post-analysis of the attendance and of these seminars. So without further ado, I'd like to ask you, Frank Johnson, a member of our CMOS Ottawa executive as well, to introduce Igor.
Thank you, Leonard. It's a real pleasure to introduce my friend Igor Shkvorets, who I've known for 20 years. He graduated 20 years before that, in 1981, as an engineer oceanologist from the Odessa Hydrometeorological Institute, which was then in the USSR, a part of the world much in the news. For 20 years, he worked at the Marine Hydrophysical Institute for the Academy of Science in Ukraine, in Sevastopol, on positions from engineer to head of metrology. And for many years after he came to Canada, he referred to that as his institute. From there, he took part in numerous oceanographic expeditions, providing on-ship samples, salinity measurements, and salinometry, and the calibration of CTD systems. He once commented that choosing a career in oceanography allows you to get out of the Soviet Union. In 1996, he demonstrated that escape from the Soviet Union by going to the UK, where he was trained on the laboratory measurement of salinity at a company called OSIL in Petersfield. And he trained on a Canadian-developed instrument called the AutoSal, which is still built in Smith Falls. In 2001, he moved to Canada on the grounds that internet was costing him his monthly salary, and worked for 6 months with Guildline in Smith Falls, helping to calibrate their AutoSal salinometers. And for reasons I won't go into, after 6 months, he decided to join RBR, which then was making, or starting to make, small CTD instruments. And he joined us as our oceanographer and calibration engineer. Igor has worked with RBR ever since, watching it grow from 10 employees in 2002, I think that's the right number, to well over 100 today. He's co-authored or authored 17 publications in oceanography, and he maintains a website called salinometry.com, which is a wealth of resources and information. Igor's passions include sailing, travel, and photography. And the next phase of his career promises to combine all of these interests. And this is what we hope to hear about today. So Igor, over to you.
Thank you, Frank, for introduction. It's good afternoon, everybody. It's a great honor and pleasure to be here on a seminar of CMOS, and I'll try to introduce you in my world of my dreams and my projects for my probably next 20 years. What was in the past, Frank very well explained, and let's start presentation. So the topic of my presentation is called Sail for Science: How Small Craft Can fill gaps in global coastal ocean observations. And that's part of my future project, what I'm working on now. So before we start my presentation, I want to do some throwback to previous presentation, which was done months ago by Guy and Sean. And it was, I watched it in a record, fortunately, but I was amazed at how much many details and information about circulation, dwelling, and situation in a Atlantic coast hydrological oceanographic can be presented with all modeling and all explanation of what's driving forces of whaling and how it's worked. And I thought that my presentation would be good complementary to that one, or maybe continuous on a level of introduction of some technology for measurements, and to explain how modern technology could democratize oceanographic measurements, move it from something very specific and demanding very expensive equipment, ships, research vessels, ship time, expeditions, and to show another approach in a low-cost, net zero carbon emission, and still effective oceanographic measurements, which can be done with using new technological level of instrumentation. So thank you, Dan, for your presentation, and I will probably at one point connect that presentation with my finding. But before I will start my presentation, I won't even go more back in 150 years. And I want just remind that in May 9, 1873, so it would be 150 years celebration this May. So British corvette, Her Majesty's ship Challenger, visit Halifax. And that's what I'll say, it's we can celebrate also 150 years of Sail for Science, but also 150 years of oceanography coming to Nova Scotia and probably to Canada, and establishing that branch of science as global discipline. It's well-known fact that that expedition just was fundamental approach to get first scientific expedition in humanity. Two factors which I want to show that what's important in a result of that expedition, which had big impact on future salinity and temperature measurements. One of them was done by chemist of expedition John Young Buchanan, who collected during these 4 years 77 samples all around the world during the expedition. And after these samples were analyzed on land by German chemist Wilhelm Dittmar, and that followed to establishment of the law of the constant proportion of the measured chemical constituents of seawater in all oceans. So that actually basis of all modern concept of salinity determination, because idea of using and method of using conductivity as input parameter for deriving practical salinity scale based only on that method which provides that that law which called in Dittmar law. Second, maybe not well known fact, but I find it in and published on my website. If you would be interested, you can go on salinometry.com and even made some analysis of data which was retrieved. So that in a Challenger expedition, especially in the first leg, exactly when that's what's probably happened 150 years ago, on board was set very special apparatus which was presented to Challenger expedition by Sir Charles William Siemens, who was one of brothers, Siemens brothers. There was three brothers, one in Germany, one William Charles was in the UK, and one was in Russia then. And so he was in charge for testing transatlantic cables. And doing these measurements of resistance with the cables, he eventually invents that electrical thermometer. And that when in my search, the first oceanographic instrument come. So that instrument was tested in a first leg of expedition, and in the results of expedition was stated that that apparatus has a bright future for measurements temperature even at depth. So that two results which connected to my subject, and I will just share them it with you. And now we'll start with why. Recently I read this amazing book of Simon Sinek, and which prompt each time when you want to start some enterprise or start some new activities, ask as many questions why as you can. So I put here 5 whys to ask myself and to try to answer them during my presentation. So why collecting temperature and salinity data is important? Why do ARGA floats play a critical role in collecting temperature and salinity data? Why there is a gap in ARGA float collected data? And why small craft boats can help to fill the gap? And finally, why RBR CTD measuring systems can fill the gap? So let's start with probably it's a basic. I don't know what's a level of oceanographic knowledge or in our auditorium, but I will just briefly talk about temperature and salinity data, why it's important in oceanography. Probably it's the most measured, definitely it's the most measured parameters in oceanography, and temperature is one of characteristic of state of thermodynamic state of seawater. Salinity is a physical chemical parameter which together with temperature and pressure follow to establish density of define density of seawater. And density, as we know, it's a main characteristic which drive ocean circulation and gets understanding how global conveyor work, where the thermohaline circulation happen, and generally understand what how world ocean move in the scale of climatology studies. Also, it's important parameter for studying climate change. So temperature and salinity data can show how oceans change with the time, what's the freshwater glacials input, melting water distribution, especially here in North Atlantic, whereas Greenland glaciers melt, make a big impact on overall overturn circulation of North Atlantic. I have with me, maybe I'll show you, two small bottles of samples which I picked from one of my cruise 2005 when I was on a research vessel, British research vessel Discovery, and we were chasing Gulf Stream, which we were walking in North Atlantic, close to Greenland, and so these two bottles has two different samples. So one sample, it's Greenland ice melted. So it's from iceberg. So we picked one small chunk of ice from the ocean and melted it. It's traditional, and people share with some good scotch. But I put it in a bottle just for future, to store it for my and I make some present for other people. And another one bottle, it's a sunk Gulf Stream. So that sample taken from depths of 500 meters, and it's very distinguished in salinity because Gulf Stream has salinity more than 35, we can say gram per kilogram. So when propagation of Gulf Stream north goes in a normal pattern without blocking by Greenland water, so that warm water masses distributed far north and warming up Europe and especially British Islands and Nordic Islands or Nordic states. But unfortunately, so melted ice glaciers of Greenland start blocking propagation of Gulf Stream, and it start sinking early, and so now climate in Europe become more vulnerable to North Stream's cold wind. So another two important reason, it's in monitoring marine ecosystems. We know that many marine organisms sensitive to change, temperature and salinity, specifically corals and even different kind of fish that or sharks change their habitat area. And finally, it's in improving weather forecasts, because to prove models, you need to get good operational data, and that data need to be taken in a very good temporal and spatial resolution. So, but before we go next, I want to introduce, I was introduced, thank you very much, my friend, but I want to introduce my lifetime companion, my friend, and my wife and my love, Irina Troshina. So it's our family project. So we're a couple. We were graduated from the same institute, and we were studying together. And so after graduation, I get position in Marine Hydrophysical Institute, and Irina in the Institute of Biology of Southern Seas. And she was more connected with biology, chemistry, and with, yeah, I would say marine biology. And so that our idea, which we dreamed times ago in a Soviet time when it was to be oceanographer, it was something what you cannot imagine, that you can go somewhere in different places and travel and see the world. And we were dreaming of having our own sailboat and having our crew of our group mates and just sail and do some science and be like a free oceanographer. So after for the passing time, so we not even work in different institution, and after we were working together at RBR, and now we finally come to idea to age of retirement, and that idea come to us to go and sail the boat and do oceanography. Yeah, as Frank mentioned, sailing is our passion. So we have our 25-footer in a Nepean sailing club, and we do for 15 years. We took part in racing, and even won 6 trophies. And we have another passion in traveling and trekking, which lead us to peaks of Kilimanjaro and Cotopaxi. And we visit many countries, especially Latin America and Caribbean, sailed Caribbean Sea in chartered sailboats. And we always took RBR measuring instrument with us on any trip when we go, because it's fascinating. Even if you're somewhere on a roof of Africa on top of Kilimanjaro, and you have with you instrument which measure temperature and atmospheric pressure, you can see how different voltage when you get 30 degrees at starting point, and after to minus 20 degrees after climbing to the top. And atmospheric pressure only 5 decibel, what we define, or 550 hectopascal. So our passion to measure something lead us to have to challenge ourselves and to find out how different approach can be in different places. So I want one of our passion is kayaking, and I want to show you these 2 beautiful crafted sea kayaks, which were handcrafted by Frank Johnson, who just introduced me, and he provided to us to do many kayaking trip around Ottawa, Rideau Canal, Georgian Bay, Saguenay River. So during that trip in 2016, I took with me one of our CTD, and I just bought simply electric fishing reel for big fish. And so that our Saguenay River trip, and this point when we did actually profiling. And you can see it's me sitting on kayak with a fishing rod and doing profiling down to 260 meters with just from kayak and battery and good electrical reel. So we collect data, and you can see on that plot how temperature and salinity distribution in this fjord different from surface to the depth. That's one of the reasons when we're talking about profiling, we need to understand when you do cast with instrument deep underwater, you can see how different stratification of temperature and salinity could be. So if we would measure temperature at surface, we'll say, or in salinity, we'll say we got temperature about 18 degrees and salinity only 6 gram per kilogram. And suddenly after 20 meters, it's dropped dropped to 3-4 degrees, and salinity rise to 28 gram per kilogram. So that's a way importance of doing CTD profiling or CTD cast for oceanographic measurement. Here briefly I'll show plot of that cross section through the whole river, and that's very interesting fjord by definition of body of water with silt and with tidal movement, which generate even you can even see here on the salinity plot some marks of internal waves. That's typical for that kind of formations. So that was done just on a vacation trip and with simply devices in your hand. I would say simply with sophisticated CTD system, but the rest of it is just $100 stuff which you can buy on eBay. So now I want to do some reminiscence for shipboard CTD system. That's how oceanography was dealing with collecting ocean data, and no matter where it was. So I spent 20 years working on one side of Iron Curtain, and after come here in the Western world, and so it's practically it's the same big instruments with bottle samples, heavy, and you need big ship to work with, and that's on the left. So I'm working with bottle samples on a Soviet, or I can say Ukrainian, because it was developed in Ukraine, then in Sevastopol in Marine Hydrophysical Institute. CTD system is Stock 5, and it was one of cruise of 1986 on a research vessel Mikhail Lomonosov in Central Atlantic, and was very exciting for us to go in and see what. And another picture, it's taken on a west coast during Canadian cruise for network Neptune Observatory, and we did some measurements of temperature and salinity, and I did testing of our second generation of our CTD systems to get a comparison with our competitor Seaboard 911. So, but with 21st century, there was quite a revolution happened in ocean observations, which was not truly noticed at the beginning, but now it's become very, very popular on all media and all discussion about how much information we can collect with this new program. So it's called ARGA program, and it consists network of ARGA floats. It's autonomic oceanographic instrumentation platform. It's actually self buoyancy controlling buoys, and so all data for the last 20 years in a recent publication they stated that about 2 million vertical profiles of temperature and salinity from upper 2 kilometers of the global ocean were collected with accuracy on the same level of as shipborne instrument, and actually now shipborne instrument become references for this float to maintain comparison and even adjustment of the calibrations. Here's on the left cross section of that float, and you can see pump moving, hydraulic pump, and moving hydraulic liquid fluid, typical oil, in a hydraulic bladder outside, which could change buoyancy of that float from positive to negative and provide ability to ascend or descend it in a water mass. At top of that float position, it's temperature, conductivity, and pressure sensor, which collect temperature and salinity data, and satellite antenna, which transmit data to the satellite system. And on the right, it's me in 2013 launching the first RBR CTD on an Apex float. That's where we started to be involved in that program, and it was one way, and now we in a good position with just recently getting flag 1. It's mean that quality of data collected with our instruments trustful and can be accepted without special evaluation. Here it's me just nearby in our calibration lab, so doing conductivity calibration for even for, you can see on behind me Argo float with our installed CTD system and standalone CTD system, and we have Gilbine salinometer and our own microsalinometer for other purpose. And you can go on our company website, and we have a very good set of webinars where you can see, and all of them recorded. You can see how calibration process. I will not pay more attention here, how calibration performance, and I can announce we'll have I think it's 29 of March live webinar about what kind of CTD you can choose. So it's could be open discussion, and you can ask question about what kind of instrument you need and how we can satisfy your requirements. So that's a diagram showing how Argo for deployed, and so it's descent and drifted for 10 days, and after descent again to 2,000 meters, ascent, and during that ascent it collect data, and after, when it's on the surface, it's transmit data to satellites. Now they use mostly its Iridium system, and that's how data after presented in a week. You can get this operational data, and the many internet platform which provide that it's data for free, and any oceanographer, anyone can take that data and put in their models or analyze it and make some study or doing some discoveries. So this is a world map about oceans with red dots and some blue dots. So that's all Argo floats, which is deployed now on state of January 2023. And you can see how, so it's 3,913 operational units, which each 10 days collect data and transmit it. And in any of these places, you can go and find the data and analyze it. When you look at from the distance, it's quite dense population. But what I done, I'm come just to the area of our Atlantic coast in Nova Scotia and Newfoundland and Labrador, and plot with again on a OceanOps website. They provide very good information about each float. I put tracks of this float. So these yellow lines, they just show how these green dots move with time. And you can see this amazing pattern on the edge of continental shelf, where that's how it's happened. When float drift at 1,000 meters depth, it cannot go on a water shallower than 1,000 meters, and it just going on the slope of continental slope and move to different places in the ocean. So effectively, all this coastal area practically not covered by RBR program. I understand that there are many different platforms, from mooring stations, from transect, from shipbuilding observation, and even from gliders existed, but distribution of that data and spatial and temporal resolution is still very weak. So it's a special program, or only one position for mooring buoy, and for gliders it would need to be a special program to launch them and monitor them. So that's actually a report would remind you that first my slide from previous presentation. So ways of dynamic of upwelling in a Nova Scotian coast happen, and that's where we have ability to help to scientists and all oceanographic community to collect data, and that's where the idea come to with help. Oh, sorry, that one very interesting plot which I make separately for one of RBR float which was deployed almost 10 years ago in 2014 in on the west side of North Atlantic, and for these 9 years, so you can track how this float was drifting again along the coastal continental shelf, continental slope, reaching Greenland, passing South Greenland, and coming to Canada coast, and that's where it's staying now. For me, it was interesting because ship was stated it's Ukrainian ship Noosphere, which is now only one Ukrainian icebreaker, which deliver Antarctic mission to on Ukrainian Antarctic station, Academic Vernadsky, where I was visited during my oceanographic cruise in 1998. But then it was actually British research vessel James Clark Ross, and that current help of British scientists that just present that ship after the commissioning to Ukrainian scientists, oceanographers, and Antarctic researchers. And yes, thank you for that. And that plot of change of temperature and salinity during that 9 years drift, and you can see from blue it's lower number and highest was about 300 profilings, and how temperature and salinity change from west, from east North Atlantic to west North Atlantic. So it become more freshy and become more coldy, and that's only one reason when we have Greenland fresh water intake from melted glaciers. Here's some recent publication about RBR CTD system for RBR project, in which I was involved too. So about accuracy, long-term stability assessment, and static and dynamic performance of RBR CTD. Now we're completely involved deeply involved in the program, and just manufacturing as many instruments as requested. So that new idea to to provide oceanographers with CTD data for us to first establish website where we can share our interest and our knowledge. So and establish that non-profit, not-for-profit organization, or we'll say company. So we, together with my wife, we co-founded, and we call it Sail for Science, and we name it for the as a model how sailing can help science with the data collection. So our mission is again in collecting low-cost, high-quality oceanographic data using sailboat, which has almost net zero emission, and transferring this data to database, and developing a methodology for cruising sailors how to use CTD measuring system to collect data and provide quality control of data and transfer that data. That's, in my point, will give worldwide flotilla of cruising sailors good feeling of real involvement in climate change monitoring, and could follow to rise citizen science on a new level of oceanographic data collection. Mostly citizen science now limited with watching bird watching or whale watching, shark watching, or monitoring state of the ocean, just visual, or best performing some visual measurements with this SECI, but truly it could be done in a more comprehensive and more modern way with getting real data. It's about, in my estimation, of what information, that's millions of sailors around, and thousands of them like cruising the world. And for me, it could be good satisfaction, or even doing some real science on during your passages or during your coastal cruising. Last year we get endorsement from UN, United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. So they accept our program as part of Ocean Decade, and we work on that frame now. So to fill our dream, we bought a boat, so new, old boat. That's if you local citizens in Ottawa, or your sailors, you probably will recognize the boat which was docked and sailed on the Ottawa River for many years. It's and it was belonged to local famous sailor Sean Johnston, who in the 1990s did circumnavigation on this boat, and now he sold us this boat almost for the price of one of instrument, what I would say. But so it's old, 1964 Gulf 40 sailboat designed by famous Canadian designer William Gardner. It's a 40-feet boat, long keel Bermuda swoop, a very solid body, and when we inspect it, we were amazed how well construction of body was saved for this many years. Probably it was built in a Chile shipyard in Hong Kong, when all technology was like, it was handcrafted, I would say. And it has good engine, but it requires some restoration and more input to refit it with new instrumentation, and it has center cockpit. That was good because it has two cabins, independent, and so we built oceanography laboratory in the aft cabin with having a special bench for instrumentation, and you can see here even microsalinometer, and having more space for even for scientists who want to join us. There's for two people, and we refit all navigation equipment with Raymarine new models, communication. We got very good sponsors, MetOcean, Halifax company, who present us iridium Ceres system, and now we will not have problem with data transmission. And but we need to pay for internet. That's for satellite communication. And we built a new approach with having more green energy on board, with installing 4 solar panels with 700 watts power, and having ADC conversion at 1 kilowatt. And all this refitting was done with great help of Frank Johnson, who was very keen with us to do that, from electrical refitting, electrical parts to woodwork, to everything. So that's our CTD, which we were using on board, and which I would recommend as our tools for oceanographic study. I will not go in details. It's a high accuracy measuring instrument. What's important in our company, we don't have differentiation as what class of instrument we have. All our instruments specified in the most accurate accuracy requirements. And no matter is it Argo, a CTD, or something like this, Bravia small package with easy deployment, with Wi-Fi system downloading, wet start. They're all built on the same electronic components and on the same technology, and they make the same performance. So if you have this small device, which I just have on my hands, you can see how small this package, and it consists of inductive cell, one of our know-how in our company, which may distinguish us from other, which with together with thermistor on the side, so that what measure temperature and conductivity, and the pressure sensor below, which measure pressure, and after you can derive salinity, practical salinity, density, speed of sound, and specific volume, so all other parameters which oceanographer need to know from physical oceanography. So last year we did, I would say, trail expedition on a moving boat from Ottawa to on the San Juan River, and to go up on the Lake Ontario. So we sailed from Iroquois Marina to Vapus Marina, and our crew was, so it was me, my first mate Irina, and our chief engineer Frank Johnson, who his input in our expedition was, and our projects was enormous. So when we visit at beginnings, here's a nice Prescott Marina, and we took our instruments. So Frank Johnson took with him his Maestra. I can show you on the screen. It's a big system with 15 different channels, so equipped with different sensors. It could measure not only temperature, salinity, but oxygen, turbidity, pH, chlorophyll, radiation, and all other parameters. But that's very expensive, probably the cost of my boat equipment. and we did that comparative testing of small one with big one, just to see how they're performing in a freshwater environment. I want to actually say too that our instrument can work in any environment from freshwater to marine without any adjustment. Conductivity range from 0 to 85, and it's well resolved conductivity measurements in a freshwater environment too. We made some survey team in Queens in Picton Marina that did the survey with one of standard instrument which used in the environment Canada, and they were amazed when we showed them our multi-channel system and say that it's require recalibration maybe once a year, and they said that we send for recalibration like 3-5 times a year just to maintain accuracy of that system. I will not say what company it's manufacturing it or what any conflict of interest. In Valpus Marina, we had very good. It was our base for walk around and for sailing lesson, and we met very good boating community, and people were interested in a data and to see what we can provide to them. Some of them even were ready to just buy instruments, but we relied to our company. So here's we did some profiling. So probably I'm running out of time. I will be short. So we enable cost-effective collecting of CTD data with equipping small craft vessels with portable, durable, reliable, and accurate RBR CTD measuring system. You see me and aft doing profiling, and we did some special training in a sloping sailing vessel. In a sailing is called having two, when you can be still under sail, but you can stop your vessel and do profiling without pulling sails down. And we had very good success in doing that. And even at some slow speed, we did too. So here's a plot of temperature and specific conductivity. It's in very high resolution scale if people understand these numbers. And that's how that system was reaching in the water. The same we did with the Maestro system, collecting many other parameters. So it was courtesy of Ottawa Instrumentation Limited and Frank Johnson. And so we download data in our in a Canon computer, and it could be through Wi-Fi from instrument memory. And after, so RBR Raskin software allowed to plot temperature and salinity and all other parameters as per depth, and to see what's going on under your board. So I will say a few words about quality control. It's a very important part of this project and my future involvement. And I can say about 8 years ago, I was involved in developing this manual for real-time quality control of in-situ temperature and salinity data. So I'm in a team of developers, which in the future become part of integrated ocean observation system. So it's become a standard manual for all quality data processing. So you can see some different tests, group 1, which is required, recommended, and suggested. So all of them I will look through in my future developments and show how they can be maintained, how they can be provided on board, and how we can check performance of instrument. One of important, and that's what's written actually with my help, and that documents that on board salinometry And that's one of our development with Frank Johnson. It's microselenometer MS310, which we developed at RBR in 2004, specifically to use on a small craft on a field, on any condition where you don't have temperature controlled room and 120 volts power as Gilbline autosol required. So it used ratiometric principle of conductivity ratio measurements, where salinity sample directly compared to reference standard seawater, and it doesn't require any temperature stabilization because it's measured always at the same condition. So that's one of fun to use that microselenometer on board and verify instrument performance with salinity samples. Exactly the same what any research vessel do now with a big CTD system, and you can see bottle samples. They developed one of reasons to take salinity samples and verify CTD measurements through the sample salinity. So quality flagging is an important part. So it's different numbers for different state of quality control. We'll go future and data submission. So I find in recent years all oceanographic community become more open for accepting ocean data. If even 5-10 years ago, it was impossible to even explain where you get that data. But now you can submit your data, for example, for Canadian Integrated Ocean Observing System Atlantics, and you need just agree to follow fair guidance principles and care principle for ingenious data governance, adhere all metadata standards and verify metadata and data to be compliant with climate and conventions, and apply to open data license to your data, and after inform in the future in any updates or changing in your data. So all this information on their website, and it's quite straightforward, and I start putting my data and communicate with them. It's very good option for people who want to share their data, no matter if it's citizen science or maybe you did like industrial measurements, but now everything is open. A few words about FAIR principles. You can find it on GoFair.org. It's about scientific data. So main explanation is data must be findable, interoperable, accessible, and reusable. And all details you can read after on the description. FAIR principles, they are connected to area where ingenious people live. Specifically, it's very important for Canada, for north of Canada, and you need to respect rights of ingenious people to be involved and to get collective benefit, to have authority to control, and to have responsibility for what you've done, and to have ethics in communication with ingenious people. So be fair and care, and that's main cornerstone of dealing with data now. I want to share my personal, because I'm Canadian, Ukrainian, and I'm taking that very deep situation which happened now in Ukraine. And I can say my wife, she's Russian by ethnically. So even today, we each Thursday we come in the morning to Russian embassy and express our protest to what's going on in Ukraine, and we raising a Ukrainian flag on our sailboat to show respect to Ukrainian people and towards how they struggle now. And I want to say that we stand with Ukraine, and Slava Ukraini. And I want to say big thanks to our friends Frank Johnson and Steve Brinda Moore, who was our employee times ago, but now he helped us very much with all mechanical job, and Frank's enormous help with even woodworks and with electrical parts, and with even living with us on the board. And want to thank our sponsors, so Ottawa Instrumentation, Ocean Telematic, and RBR for providing instruments and for support. Thank you very much. Sorry for taking all time, and I'm still open for a question. I don't know how long we can hold it. Thank you.
Thank you, Igor. I'm looking nervously at our chairman to see if we've got time for a couple of questions. We have a couple in the chat column. The first one is, are shallow coastal waters the reason for the Argo gap?
That's how this program, because looking in the history of Argo program, this program take roots from previous projects. It's called SWAL floats. It's natural buoyancy floats, which were distributed at 1,000 meters depth, and scientists were tracking a movement of that water in a time to get understanding of deep water circulation. So one of the reasons that's how it was designed to have this drifting position at 1,000 meters. And that's very convenient because at 1,000 meters, you don't have the biggest problem of any instruments. It's called biofouling. So these instruments are not affected by growing and any factors which would be if these buoys will be drifted on the shallow waters. So because after 100 meters of by growing could spoil it all information and degrade accuracy of instruments. That's one of the reasons, yeah. But I feel that it's a new dynamic. So Argo program trying to go deeper to 6,000 meters, and some new buoys were deployed. You can see in the photo it was like a dark blue. And we even calibrating one of them goes in the shallow in 1,000 meters. Probably they will change tactics to have more data, but not on that scale, like 4,000 buoys. Probably some of them would be in the shallow area. And again, another risk that it could be washed on a shore. That one, when you see a pattern of Argo floats, they just stay away from the shore and do not to be washed on the shore, and they just stay in the ocean and do their job. Probably that's the main reason. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not sure whether you, it looks as if it's my internet. That probably answers another question, which is why there are no tests on the Greenland eastern shore, which is probably the same reason. Let's go back to an earlier question. How about using a xylem castaway for up to 200-meter depths? And now, just in case you haven't looked at the specification for the xylem castaway, it's a Canadian-made CTD with probably around about one-tenth of the accuracy of what we can perform.
Yeah, one of the reasons, first, we don't want to be here defending or commercializing that I try to be independent to see us as an expert on different systems. And if I think it's a Wayside development or some other company. Yeah, I had that instrument in the head. It's portable, looks nice with display, but accuracy, I would say, yeah, 10-20 times less than our instrument. But maybe for some application it will work. I mean, don't have any restriction. If someone can provide quality control and make assessment of performance, stability, and accuracy, that's fine. Yeah, any instrument, welcome.
That's good. Well, that probably leads on to the next question, which is how much do these instruments cost? And do you receive funds from Canada or any other organization? You've mentioned a couple of sponsors. Do you anticipate getting funding from anyone?
So because we just started with the project, and mostly effort was done to make board ready. We have good sponsorship from a company who involved in a communication like Metocean, and we have some we have support from our RBR company to we have instrument from our company, but we don't have any government funding, and for now it's a very slow process. Even if you apply, I applied for a Canadian ocean cluster in a cove in Halifax, but was rejected, unfortunately. And for now, there was no any other opportunity to apply for funding. And again, we don't have a solid scientific background to say that where that data will be. That may be one of problem. But I have very good now network or communication with other people who involved in similar business or similar vision of equipment sailboats with instrumentation. And it's, for example, in France, it's very popular. There are many startups or enterprises from very respectable and ocean of scientific with Ivan Griboval. Mostly all of them ex-sailors, circumnavigators, and who now start doing that scientific projects. Another company that provide for IMOCA fleet measuring system, but this whole systems, it's onboard system. It's a kind of ferry box, which is very expensive. It's hundreds of thousands, and for even for current ocean race teams, they do great job to accomplish some scientific research with deployment of Argo floats, drifting buoys, and collecting underway data from that flow through systems. That's so it's our internal communication, and we still in touch, and then we will probably develop some more comprehensive way how to get funding. Probably for governments, it would be much better approach to give some money for sailors, and it would be good startup for some company who want to manage that process and distribute maybe even instrument to have some park of instrument and take care of how this turnout of instrument would be, and it will be much in funding, much efficient to get data from for both costs.
Okay, thank you, Igor. I think that's obviously going to be a discussion for another day. We've had a really good talk. Thank you very much, and I'm going to hand back now to Leonard. Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much.
Well, Igor, also I echo Frank's thank you very much on behalf of everybody for a wonderful talk. Before we go, I have just two messages to everybody. Don't forget, on April 20th, next month, we have doctoral researcher Yifeng Wang of Queen's University talking on revisiting distribution of peatland permafrost. And that'll be the last of our spring seminars before September. Stay tuned for the September. We're already lining up people. Then the 57th Congress for 2023 for CMOS is taking place in St. John's, Newfoundland, 28th of May to 1st of June. And don't forget, go to the website. 14th of April is the early bird deadline for the early bird registration, if anybody's interested. It's a hybrid virtual physical meeting. Again, thank you, Igor, and have a good month, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Leonard. Thank you for having me. And I want to congratulate with spring is coming. And in Ottawa, we have had rain today, and my crocuses in my front lawn come up. So welcome to the spring, and don't forget to celebrate 150 years of oceanography in May.
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye now.